Hello friends and welcome. So I bring Ayurveda in little bits and pieces. That's the sister science to yoga, basically about lifestyle and how we live. And I like to think of it as preventative medicine. If we live in this Ayurvedic way, hopefully we never have dis-ease to begin with. But I'm going to talk a little bit about it today with today's practice. I bring it into every practice we do. I don't always point it out. But we're in a heat advisory here in Walla Walla, Washington, and we're moving into 100 degrees. So Pitta is the summer dosha, right? Its season, I should say, is summer. And Pitta is fire and water. Some of us have a decent amount of that in our body, our constitution, right? But whether or not you are prone to it in your constitution, I am so Pitta. When we move into the summer season, we're all going to potentially have that pitta, that extra fire from the heat of the environment around us. So on really, really hot days, I do a cooling practice to try to counter that. Remember, yoga is all about balance, in my personal opinion. So that said, we're going to move in a cooling way today. Find an upright posture. And again, it's to counter, to pacify, right, to cool that pitta dosha. So a couple of things as we practice today, bringing in a sense of fun if we can, making sure we're not overly critical of ourselves, remembering this is not a competition, and using a little less effort than you would on other days, say a cool winter day or a cold winter day. So just start to check in. Notice what you notice about the body you have here right now at this moment in time. Another thing that's helpful for cooling the body is a focus on the exhale. So start to bring your awareness to the breath in general, but maybe extending that exhale a little longer than the inhale. And then go ahead and open the eyes. And we're going to start on our backs. We've been doing a decent amount of this kind of stuff lately. Part of the reason why, right, is because we've been moving towards heat, and so I've been trying to help us stay a little cooler. So have your strap where you can grab it. Go ahead and roll on down. And once you get down onto your back, we're going to move into windshield wiper twist. Tee your arms out. Walk your feet wider than your hips, whatever that is for you. And then go ahead and just let your knees start to move back and forth, right, from right to left. As always, I'll encourage you not to move too fast with this. Be mindful. Move in a way where you can really pay attention to the different areas of the body, what's opening, what's tight, what's tender, etc. Why would she have me do this pose? What benefit am I getting? And then if you want to turn your head the opposite way of the knees, you can go ahead and start to add that in. And we're not going to do really hard twists today, but we are going to bring some twists and side elongation. These things are said to help cool Pitta dosha. And then we're going to switch the twist. So when you feel complete with that one, come on up. Walk your feet in until your ball mounds of your big toes touch. You're going to cross your right leg all the way over your left, thighs touching. You can leave your arms as such. If it's okay with your shoulder girdle to interlace your hands behind your head, you'll go ahead and you'll add that in. Sorry, my microphone. I'm trying to figure out where to put it, where it has stability. Okay. And then from there, you're going to go ahead and you're going to let your knees move over to the right. So it's going to be monodirectional. They're only going to move to the right. So just do that a couple of times, just the legs, and let that kind of low back, hip, etc. How is this twist different than the one we just did? Yeah?
And then maybe let the right elbow slide up to the right corner of the mat as you move in, arching that spine to the left as you move into the twist. And do that a couple or a few times. We're all moving at our own pace. Sorry, I have a little bit of frogs still. The good news is the stuffiness is going away from my sinuses. Knees still go to the right, but this time the left elbow is going to slide up, and that's probably going to amplify that stretch on the left side. And, you know, if I put you in an MRI, you would see your spine curving to the right. And then go ahead and come on back to your center. Uncross your legs. Pause for a moment and just notice what you notice. And then cross your left leg over your right. Sorry, thighs touching. First, just start with the legs. Let the legs go over to the left. And that's the only direction they'll go for a little bit, is just over to the left. And let them just toggle over there a few times. And then we're going to go with the same elbow. So as the knees move to the left the next time, whenever that is, let the left elbow slide up nice and slow. And again, just think about having fun and playing with it, you know. And it's not like, oh, this move is so much fun necessarily, but when I want to do that, I just think about being a kid and like playing on the earth. You know, I used to play in the grass all the time. Now maybe that right elbow slides up. Your knees still go to the left, so some people that's a little bit of a mind trip, right? The knees go to the left, but the right elbow slides up this time. And again, just notice your body. Notice what's happening in there. Maybe imagine that you're a, 7-year-old and 8-year-old playing in the park, having a great time with your friends or whatever that quality is for you. And then when you feel complete with that, you're going to uncross the legs, let the feet walk out, let the knees lean in, let the arms come out to a teed out position, and just pause for a moment. Pardon me, letting your body soften. Walk your feet back in, bring your right knee in, and we're just going to rock that knee in and out. So, sometimes I do this and we're pumping a joint maybe, and we're pumping the hip joint right now. But, one of the things that you can do with Pitta, maybe you start to circle it, that cooling effect that we're looking for is, just letting the body kind of spontaneously move. So if you want to do something different than what I'm calling out, or you start with me and then you're like, ooh, this is interesting, this feels good, do it, yeah? And circle the other way. And then interlace behind the thigh and push the heel up to the sky. Maybe circle the toes of the right foot. You might get a little clickety-clack down the track. Go ahead and go the other direction. And I decided not to use the strap after all. Go ahead and maybe bend that knee a couple of times. You can let it just kind of flop down and lift it up, right? And you can go a little bit to one side or the other, or just kind of whatever movement feels good. You can circle the leg from here and put that foot back down. So just waking up some joints. Bring that left leg in, and again, we're going to start by just doing the pumping action, right? Pumping the knee in and out. And then if you want to add any kind of circling of the leg or whatever movement that is for you, right? You can circle one way for a while and then the other, or you can circle one way and then switch it right away. I don't know what feels really good in your body right now. And if you're not sure, just listen to it. Do some moves and it'll tell you usually, yeah? Interlace behind the thigh. That heel's going to push up. Let's play with the ankle by just go ahead and circle the foot. And move the other direction. And then maybe go ahead and just let that knee drop down. You can leave your hands there or not and just kind of push it up and drop it down and punk, right? Whatever feels good to you. And you can always externally rotate and kick one side and then the other. Maybe pretend you're, what are those called? The Rockettes. So not so precise today, yeah? Bring that foot down. Again, we don't need precision and critical and all of the things when we're trying to cool ourselves down. And then from there, we're going to go ahead and we're going to do one more thing here on the ground, and that is we're going to do a little knee swing. So your legs are going to go out, your arms are going to tee out, and it's like you're going into windshield wiper, but you're going to swing the right knee up to the left. Most people who've been with me, we do this one a decent amount, right? So just start with that. As you move back and forth, you're going to let that top leg just continue to kind of swing on the trajectory that it's on. Right? So if I had a compass in a math class and I was drawing the edge of the knee circle kind of a thing, yeah? And then when you get over to the right, we'll say the next time, extend that left leg out, maybe that right hand comes under to support it, flex the foot, push the heel away, and imagine me pulling your left hip down, but then kind of move it a little up, a little down if that feels okay. Now you could bend the knee and straighten the leg, but that one is usually the one that starts to play with that low back, IT band, etc. Right? You can move the pelvis in a not a cat-cow and just kind of play with little movements. And then we're going over to the other side, so swing that right leg up and in. I'm going to support it with my hand, because why not today? And then I'm going to let my right hip move a little forward, a little back, a little forward, a little back. And I'm just going to kind of play around with my pelvis a little bit here, maybe playing a little bit with cat-cows. And again, if there are other moves that you like that are feeling really good, spontaneously move your body. Do it, do it, do it, do it. And we're going to swing that leg back, and then we're going to rock up. So unless you have issues with your tailbone or your spine or some such thing, then please don't. If it's okay, let's rock and roll a couple of times. So if you don't want to rock back down, you don't have to, but maybe you just again, like a kid, you just play a little bit with that rocking motion. And then think of massaging the spine if that feels good. And then when you're all the way up, you're going to cross your right ankle in front of your left. Get really tall. And then we're going to start that forward fold out over the legs to wake up our hippies. And, I often teach it where I say maybe you move a little bit from right to left and just kind of let it be a rocking motion. And this does wonders for my sacrum, my low back, my buttocks. It's coming down all the way towards at least mid-thigh, more towards my knees today. And then I'm going to get a little bit bigger, and I'm going to walk my hands with it as I walk from side to side, and maybe I get a little more stretch in that side waist. And then just because I'm playing like a kid, I'm going to start to bring it into a big old circle and put my hands on my thighs. This part I'm making up as I go. It just seemed like, oh yeah, do that. And I'm going to switch and go the other direction. And just let it be playful. Non-critical, cooling. And come on up. Let's put that other shin in front. And maybe same thing, but maybe not. Maybe this side gets a whole different treatment. Feel free to come on down in. We'll start the same, right? Maybe a little bit of movement from right to left. And for this one, I just kind of keep my buttocks gently down. But you could lift them up and play with it. And how does that change the experience, And maybe you get a little bigger by walking the hands from side to side, so your swing gets a little bit bigger. And you can keep doing that, or you can move into full swing motion, or full circle, motion. You can let the upper body get involved or not. You can open the eyes or close the eyes and just play with it. And come on up, and then we're going to now, instead of circling from the hips, we're going to try and circle from that middle rib cage and just move through there. And notice if everything else gets involved, and maybe chuckle at yourself a little bit and how that mind is trying to find that bottom of the sternum. Other way, maybe not. Right? Nice and slow and soft. Nice long breath. Focus on the exhale. And come back to center. And then can you move it up into your spine, and can you think of now your chest or collarbones doing the circling, whatever that means to you. It doesn't have to look anything like what I'm doing. Close your eyes and imagine being a piece of sea kelp in a forest, sea kelp forest. And what happens if the ocean pushes that part of your body? You can switch the directions or not.
And then maybe imagine that it's the crown of the head that's now doing the moving. And just get fluid and flow in whatever capacity works for you today. And then come on back to center. Let's go ahead and come on to hands and knees. Feel free to pad your knees here. And we're going to start down in child's pose. So your knees might go wide. They might not. Big toes touching. And as you come down, let's take just 3 breaths into the back body. So inhale into your low back. And exhale. As if you could, you're just trying to expand that area, right? Inhale into the kidney band area. Say hi to your adrenal glands. Give them love. And then inhale into the upper back. You know, if you breathe into those lungs, of course, they're really high up in our bodies. You get great access to that upper back. Okay. Now let your hips sway a little bit from right to left if that works for you and feels good. So I work with that imagery a lot. I bring it up in class here and there, but one of the imageries that I use that helps me find the softest place for my body to work from, because I'm a pretty rigid, hardcore little girl, right, is that seaweed imagery. And then maybe you keep the hips still, and now we move into that upper body, and you can just walk back and forth, or maybe your hands go down and you just move your upper body a little bit, right? Whatever works for you. Maybe your hands are wide and you just swing the body. I don't know, play with it. What feels really good today? Actually, that one does feel really good today. This is how I've been playing in my practice for, I don't know, the past couple of weeks. Yeah, actually probably about almost 3, because I started doing this kind of stuff when I got COVID because my body was fatigued, you know. And go ahead and bring those hands a little bit closer. We're going to go into another twist. We're going to keep it in child's pose. If you need to lift your hips higher, you can totally do that. But otherwise, your right hand's going to go past, go through the triangle, right, between the knee and the left hand, and then set down the side of the head. The shoulder, my shoulder doesn't touch the earth, but my head does, yeah? Or put something under the head. But if I reach that arm over before I set down, personally in my body, I feel a nice big stretch come into my outer right shoulder, my upper back a little bit, kind of those muscles around my scapula. And again, if you feel like any kind of movement feels really good once you're in there, swaying hips, or whatever that would be, raising your shoulder up to your ear and back down. I don't know what feels good. And then push the ground away, coming back up, sliding that left hand through. Again, shoulder, my shoulder doesn't set down personally, but my head can. And then once I kind of get that body nice and soft, or as soft as I can, I might get to soften it a little more, get it to soften a little more. If I move around a little once I'm in the pose, whatever that means to you today. Again, just imagine yourself being a kid and playing with it. And move the floor away. Let's come up to hands and knees. Bring those knees in so you're more hip distance-ish, or wherever you feel stable really is the main thing, yeah? And then maybe you start with some kind of cat-cow motion, but maybe you add a little more movement than usual today. Maybe your hips move back, or maybe you start to, I always think of this as kind of like animalistic. I mean, I know we're animals and all, but just this animalistic movement of, you know, bend an elbow or not and move one shoulder forward, arch a part of the spine or the rib basket. Pardon me. Whatever feels good. Head can move, doesn't have to. Hips can move, they can circle. Again, really, I can't say it enough. Play with it. I mean, there are certain things I can definitely help you find and try to. And ultimately, when I have found the absolute most is when I start to play with my own body, right, without doing every single thing my teacher says. And then I'm like, ooh, feel that. And a lot of what I teach and bring to you is from me doing that. I discover this stuff, and then I'm like, hey, check this out. Does this work in your body or no?
Sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. And then go back in a child's pose again when you feel complete there. Supporting yourself however you would like. Soft jaw, long exhales. Expanding the back body with inhales, but not aggressively. Again, just check in, make sure you're not being too critical or too precise or any of those things. Just letting it be really soft and fluid and having fun best you can. Let's come on up. Pardon me. You may or may not want those blocks. Try I switch sides because my mic is on this side. That way, hopefully when I turn, I talk to you more. So I'm going to bring that right leg forward, and kind of same idea of what we've been doing, right? Maybe it's just moving forward and back, or maybe that's how you start, and then maybe you start to move the hippies around. You can move the blocks wherever they need to be for you to feel like you're supporting yourself. They can walk with you as you do moves. You don't have to go one circle for 5 times and one circle the other direction for 5 times. You can. You certainly can. You can stay in a place and breathe into it if you're like, whoo-wee, that's feeling mighty fine today. And again, I'm just going to encourage you that, yes, find maybe a bit or two of stillness, and then at the same time, once you're in a pose that you're often in holding with precision, maybe you play a little bit with it. And what happens if you move your hips to the right, or if your shoulder lifts, etc. And then if and when you feel ready, go ahead and switch out to the other leg. And again, feel free to move that in whatever way, but do move a little bit. Feel free to stay for a breath or two if you find a spot where you're like, whew. And then, but once you're in it and you take a breath or two, maybe you stay forward in the lunge, say, and let the hips move a little from right to left, or move the shoulders and the spine a little bit, and just see what that does. Or if you're back in your hamstrings, right, you can move hips or whatever. Again, just kind of play with it and just see where your body's at today. What feels nice, playful, gentle. Step that leg back. And let's go into a forward fold. Curl the toes under. Oh, actually, you know what? I'm going to add a little thing in here today. I'm kind of making it up as I go a little bit. Wasn't intending to, but I'm thinking like, ooh, this is the thing when you start to move this way. I think it's kind of fun because you're like, ooh, I want to try that, right? It kind of like begets the next thing. So if it's okay with your feet and your ankles, pardon me, curl your toes under, and you're going to try to come back. Your heels don't have to come down on the ground, right? But I come into like kind of like a little squat. And I'm going to move my knees forward, and I'm going to come on back if that's okay with all of the parts of my body necessary to make this move work. There's a lot of flexion in the hips and the knees and the ankles and the feet, or toes, I mean, right? And then the next time you're back there, now let's put our heels down and shoot our hips up to the sky. Let's step our feet out just a little wider, maybe about as wide as the mat. And you can play with movement here. So maybe it's a side to side, like a right to left kind of situation. Straightening and bending, or circling. Hands can bear some weight if that works for you or helps you do any of these moves we're talking about. And what happens if you don't think about it a ton, and if you just get in your body and you just start to move your body? Out of your head and into your body, yeah? I'm going to grab my elbow points personally, just pointing things out, but if you have something you're doing that you're loving, you should stay with it. And then I'm going to go ahead and bend my knees a little bit, like I can drape my thighs down, straighten them a little bit, right? So again, just playing with that movement today. And let's put our hands on our shins and let's meet here. Walk your feet in just a little bit and reach that chest forward. Exhale, folding in any capacity. Let's do that again. Chest forward, belly toning in. And then we're going to bring it up. So arms can come out, but hands can always come onto hips. And bring those arms on down. Now in that standing up position,
Go ahead and have your feet about the width of the short distance of your mat. Pretend I'm facing the short edge. And similar quality, right? I'm just going to go ahead and start to move my hips. I'm moving right to left. You can move any direction. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start to move them in a circle. Again, I'll call out some things just in case you're having a hard time discovering stuff on your own, but feel free to veer off and do whatever you want to do. Maybe the other direction. This one I'd like you to do, pardon me, if you're feeling it, just because of it feels so good in the pelvis, right? Figure 8. So right hip moves forward, swings around and moves back, and then the left hip does the same thing. So it's the forward, right, and that figure 8. And then we're going to switch. So the hips will go back first and then swing around and swing forward. And we switch the figure 8. And let it be really hippie. Sometimes I talk about moving from the tailbone. If you need to do that to find the pattern, that's awesome sauce. But I mean, you can tell I'm really just letting my hips just do this grand motion. Yeah? I'm sea kelp in the sea kelp forest. And then go ahead and come on back to center. Let those legs come in just a little bit. Those feet, I mean, so you're more like hip distance again. Sorry, just fixing my sleeves. And then let's just do a couple of arms. So we're going to start to move back and forth from one side to the other. If that arm, that top arm doesn't want to reach over, you could just simply slide down the legs, right? But if it feels okay, you can go ahead and start moving into. And I had to move your feet into hip distance, but maybe you feel more stable with them further apart. Again, I don't know. Well, I don't know. Play with it. What do I know? Maybe you look down as you do it. And then maybe you look forward or up as you do it and just play with the position of the neck and how does that change the position to gravity? Or the experience, I mean. And then I'm going to separate my feet out for this one. I'm adding this one in again. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to do a sweep with my arm. Right, so I start looking down, my arm sweeps back behind me, and I have a little twist as I move from side to side in the motion I was just doing. If you get dizzy, just look forward and down and keep the eyes planted on something as the upper body moves. Oh, by the way, drishti point for pitta is on the horizon or lower, right? We keep the gaze a little bit lower. Now let your arms maybe swing you into a twist if that feels all right. You can let your hands beat into you. I'm a little funky with my one hand coming over so I don't hit the microphone box. So if it seems like, what is she doing? You can be a little more free than me. I just don't want to turn my mic off. Pardon me. And then maybe you bring your arms in. And again, I'm going to be careful because I have a microphone, but you can cross one and then the other and give yourself a hug. I'm not going to come in all the way because I don't want to hit my mic. And then maybe just those hands to the same shoulders. Elbows don't have to swing up. They certainly can. And then we're going to do a backstroke, letting one arm go first and then the other. Chest mostly forward-ish. And then go ahead and do the crawl. And then, you know, whatever movement feels good, go ahead. And this is going to be our final foray. Doesn't have to look like mine. Close your eyes if that's helpful and just move the body in any capacity and have fun with it. Don't worry about judgment from other people. Who gives a crap if you feel good in your body? Who gives a crap what they think? And then start to slow that movement down. We're going to end standing, so you can leave the feet wide or you can bring them in and stand up tall. You can look down at the ground or close the eyes. And don't be really rigid with your Tadasana, with your mountain pose. Let it be a really soft, fluid sea kelp kind of mountain today. A sea kelp mountain? That would get stinky in the sun after a while. Bring your hands together in front of your heart. Inhale. Exhale, bow your head in. Taking a moment of gratitude and just remembering as you move through your day, if it's helpful, to be playful, to have fun, to not be so critical, to not make anything a competition. Right, if you find those things coming up, that's pitta, pitta, pitta. And even if you don't have a really high pitta dosha in your constitution, this time of year can bring that out in us. Namaste, friends. I'm just going to throw it out there. Don't go outside and be active, or even just in the sun, in the noonday sun. If you have to, wear a brimmed hat, right, during those hours of like 10 to 2 particularly. Drinking lots of water, stay hydrated. Don't guzzle it all at one time. Sip it throughout the day. You can put lemon or cucumber or mint in your water, which are very cooling. I'm trying to think, there are 5,000 other ones, but my brain's a little slow right now because I didn't prep it. But, doing those things that you can to keep yourself cool while we're going through this heat wave here in Walla Walla. It's supposed to be like 100 today. Best of luck, my friends.